Hello and welcome to another What's New with Microsoft 365 and Teams for the week 22nd to the 29th of June. I'm Mark Thompson and I'm going to take you through our usual format. We've got some revised timelines. What's new and available now? Actually, they're just Teams items, so we're going to call that What's New and Available Now in Teams. We've got our regular section where we go a little bit deeper, and after quite a couple of weeks it's nice to see we've got some good updates to go through, and towards the end we'll have a look at the bite-sized updates, the ones to watch, and then keeping up with Microsoft 365. So revised timelines, transferring calls between devices on Microsoft Teams, that's due now about 4 weeks or so early to late June. Yammer Essential announcements, so they're rolling out now. It should be complete by June. So this is where people have turned off their announcements or withdrawn their announcements in Yammer. But if something is essential, then you can make sure that everybody sees that. Multiple spotlights come into Teams meetings. So talked about this a few times before. It keeps getting kicked down the road a little bit. This is where, let's say, myself and a couple of colleagues were doing some like a webinar type session on Teams, and we're like the panel. It means that we can have our images up, our video feeds up, and everyone else be downside. So you can look out for that mid to late June. So probably another month or so before you see that. And forms, correct answers in Teams. I've talked about this before a few times again, but that's now coming maybe about 2 weeks or so. So we're looking at mid-June. Okay, so what's new and available now? So we're going to focus on Teams, webinars plus meeting registration options. So look up here, you can see here, so this is come out, for me, it's come out the last week or so. So when I have set up a meeting, I can optionally require that people register. And when I say yes, I want people to register, then this is what the registration looks like. So you can add an image at the top so you can brand your webinar, and then people can they can sign up for it, and then they will get an email. It goes into their into their Outlook or their Teams calendar, and it's just a nice way of letting people invite themselves to a session that you've got set up. New file sharing experience. So for me, I noticed this last week. I'm not sure how long it's been around. But for me it's definitely newish. So this is where this will look familiar to you folks if you share files in OneDrive or in SharePoint. You can see here when you share now, so this was me sharing in a chat, I've got a little drop down, and it means I've got a lot more control over the file. So I'm not just putting a file out there and then I've lost control of it. I've got a lot more control of it there, and I can decide who can see it. Profile menu update. So you can see here that you can still click on your photograph, just look at the stuff to do with your account and your U-type stuff, but your settings, so you can see here that like zooming controls, you previously noticed, checking for updates, and your settings basically have dropped into this little ellipsis next to the name of the tenant you're in at the time. I can't be honest, I found this a bit clunky, this change, and I'm sure I'll get used to it like everything else that you do. But initially, I just found it a bit clunky, just rather than clicking on my photograph and over to my settings. But yeah, like anything, you get used to it pretty quickly. The in-meeting share experience. So I know that you've probably seen this by now. This was where when you click on share, instead of the share tray being at the bottom, it's popped up to the top right-hand side, and more prominent now is the include computer sound. So Teams have been able to do that for quite a long time now, but anyone who's had the trauma of trying to get sound to go across a Skype call, say you're playing a video and you want the video sound to go across your Skype call, you'll know how nice it is to have that nice and easy to access on your session. Setting out of office in Teams, so a couple of ways you can get to this. Now if I go here and if I go click on set my status message, I will then see this screen and I can schedule my my out of office. What's great about this is that it surfaces in Teams, in Outlook, on your presence, on your card. So that's really nice. So if you're responsible for rolling Teams out or getting your team to get into it, if they say, oh, it's just another thing I have to look at, this is another thing in your toolbox that you can use to counter that argument. And finally, we saw this what's new alert. You may have seen this last week. So to set your out of office, then we've looked at that already. On Windows, you can choose your notifications. So let's have a look at this one here. So here, if I go into my notification settings, you can see here that I can now choose between the Teams alerts or the Windows alert. Have a look at the blog, folks, because there's a couple of little caveats with the Windows one. Just making sure that you've allowed those announcements, that those alerts to come out. So if you're going to use the Windows, make sure you go and double check your notification settings in Windows. But yeah, it's quite nice to do that. For Mac users, then that's coming down the line a little bit further. Oops, let's go back one. What else we got here? So Safari now has ongoing video support for online meetings, and get a recap of Teams meetings and more when you record them. So I'll maybe have a look. Next time I do a record a Teams meeting, I'll maybe make a note of what you get there, and I'll talk about that another time. Okay, folks, into our first proper update, pinning on Outlook and Android. So pin messages in Outlook for iOS and Android. You can see on the right hand side here, and you see here I'm showing my pinned items. So it just makes it easy for you to get to and to keep track of your message. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go through the menu. So here we clicked on the ellipsis, and then we're going to say yes, we'd like to pin, or we can just tap on the message, swipe, and then we can tap on that pin thing there. So that's due in the Apple Store and the Google Play Store late May to mid-June. Play my emails in Outlook. So this has been around about in the UK, India, Australia and Canada for a while, and it's now rolling out internationally with a British accent if you have got your language set to English in iOS and Android. An internet connection is required, but it just makes it a little bit easier. Maybe you're starting to get back into travelling to work, and maybe, I don't know, you're commuting, you can just select that and then it'll read them out to you. Due in the Apple Store and the Google Play Store, July to September. Okay, so do you remember this? So I talked about this quite a long time ago. This is the Planner 5 recommendations. It came out, but then they put it on hold back in March. So I think this looks quite nice. So you're using Planner and you're working on a task for the XYZ project, and behind the scenes the system knows that you've got a Word document called the XYZ project and your spreadsheet, and it's just going to intelligently suggest the related files, make it just a bit easier for you to hook up your task with the files that support the task. So this is due out late May to early July, so they took it off the market and they did a few tweaks and they brought that back. But looking forward to, as someone who uses Planner every day, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, announcing annotations in PowerPoint Live in Teams. Now, when I shared this with the folk at the Inform team, this got a little bit of interest. This looks quite nice. So it's available when you're presenting through PowerPoint Live in Teams, and it gives you a virtual laser pointer, and you can make ink annotations. So it might be that you're talking, maybe presenting this, and you're talking about the $120.77 per person, and you want to circle it, and you want to just leave that highlight on there. So you can see me. I use I press the control button for the echo pointer, so I highlight things that way, and then I use the control button, and then I use the mouse, and I get my laser pointer coming up there. But maybe I want that to stick, so that being able to annotate it as we go, I think is really nice, and a lot of interest in this at work. It's for the active in control presenter, so the person who's actively engaged in the presentation. It's on Teams desktop, web, and Mac, but not mobile, I'm afraid. It'd be a bit difficult unless you've got like a pen on a mobile device. I guess that would be tricky to use. So look out for that, folks. Late May to early June. And organisation-wide backgrounds. Now this is quite timely because thing I'm working on at the Inform team and one of their big mega clients, massive government client, we're looking at custom backgrounds for all the different departments, just so they can brand their presentations and their sessions. And it would be great to be able to use the organisation-wide ones so that they can just pick it. But let's just work through this. So you can provide backgrounds for everyone to use, and you just apply it in the same way. So you can see here that we've clicked on the ellipsis during the meeting, and we've gone to our background settings, and we've chosen a setting, or we're about to choose a setting, and we click apply. Okay, works beautifully. And can't wait for this feature. But it requires an advanced communication license for the person who's presenting. And I've got to be honest, I'm all for Microsoft making making money where they've earned it. And I know that some things are expensive to have running, and only some people use it, and the people who use it, they should pay. But you know what, folks? This is a JPEG that's just going to get pushed out to all the team's clients, and I'm struggling, if I'm honest, to see why that's an advanced communications license item. It's just a JPEG. You've got them anyway. Look at this here. These are the ones that these are the standard ones. Just you choose a library, you push it out. I don't know. I'm hoping that'll trickle down just to the normal license. Maybe they just want it to be used by the key people in each organisation. Maybe they get a communications license. I don't know, but I just think that's a bit tight. Okay, so initially in preview, and then goes general availability in July of this year. Teams meeting, lowering all raised hands. You'll probably notice, folks, there's a bit of a theme over the last few months where presenters, Microsoft Teams presenters, are getting more control. They're getting they're more functionality, and they're making life easier for the presenters. And here's another example of that. So this will be available when at least one hand is raised, obviously, because you're going to lower hands. You've got to have at least one hand up, right? It's for meeting organisers and presenters. So I guess if I'm the organiser and I'm presenting, and I've got another presenter, a co-presenter, maybe they can take care of this for me. And it just means that if we just zoom in a bit on there, so we're looking at the roster there, and we click on the ellipsis, and we can say lower all hands. Okay, and in there as well, look at that came out the ability there to lock the meeting. So if you've got a training session, for example, that's got some kind of certification with it, if they miss the first 5 minutes, if you can't hand on heart say that person now knows that topic, maybe you want to lock the meeting and keep them out. But here, going back to lower all hands, it just means that if you've kind of lost track of people putting their hands up, you can just start again and put all the hands down. That's due mid-June, so maybe 2 to 3 weeks, you'll start seeing that, folks. On-demand channel post translation in iOS and Android. So you have to forgive me, folks, on this one. There's a bit of ambiguity here for me, and I'll tell you what that is as we go along. So it means you can translate channel posts that are in another language. Now to translate, you press and hold the message, and then you tap translate. You can see we've done that there in the middle one. And here you can set your translate language. So you get settings, translation, and then you choose your desired language. Now, I can't be honest, right? So I thought when we click on translate here, so I thought you could choose your language. So you could just choose any language. Now it might be that if you just tap it, it goes to the language that you've set here. I don't know whether this is different to the translate into your home language. You got your language, and you just click translate button, it goes into that. So you can see I'm not crystal clear on a bit of the functionality there. When I get that clarified, I'll put it into the bite size, maybe a little bit further down the line, just to clarify that. But when that rolls out, folks, early June, mid-July, definitely worth you having a look. Okay, onto our bite-sized options already. So Teams, additional admin support and functionality for 1,000-person meetings. Now this is just so that if you need information about the meeting, you need to download all the attendees. The admin behind the scenes will be able to do that. So you can ask for that from your organisation if you've got an important meeting. But I bet some of that functionality will trickle down to the organisers as well. Mac notifications. So you saw the Windows version of this earlier, and maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I mentioned that Microsoft had put this on hold. Well, it's back, okay? And we're looking at mid-June to early July. So you Mac folk, then you can push your notifications through the Mac system as well. And Together Mode extensibility. So, you know when you're having a Teams meeting, everyone's got the videos on, then you can click on Together Mode, and then it looks like a game of Guess Who, because everyone's in their little seats, and it reminds you of that old game from the 80s. Now, what this means is that if you've got some creative folk in your organisation, you can create your own. So I think this is going to be really, really good fun. And especially like if something needs to be formal, or maybe you've got something a little bit light-hearted, you have something a bit of fun with a team's get-together or with your team, then it'd be interesting to see some examples of that coming out. And when I see some examples, folks, I'll share those with you because I think that'd be quite good fun. Okay, so Teams and Yammer, so those rich link previews are coming into chats, so you can get more information in there, and you can engage with those previews that they come into Teams. Office for the web, retiring the file share embed. Now, more information for this on the blog, folks, so just go to the notes area, whether you're listening on the podcast or you're watching on the video, go to the notes, jump you back to the blog, and you can learn more about this. So it's got some suggestions for how you get around this. Well, that is going the 1st of July. Okay, so Teams introducing the 2x2 gallery for meetings viewed in Edge and Chrome. So I said maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago that I'm looking forward to those galleries coming to Chrome, because I know of an organisation where a lot of their staff are still on. They can only use the browser version of Teams. So look out for that. Looking forward to that, because that will actually matter to some people. And SharePoint, the page of details updates. So if you go into, you look at your page or an editor, and you go into the page details, in here you can look at the URL, you can copy it, you can change the URL, so you get a little bit more, you're going to get a bit more control in the page details section. Okay, we're getting to the ones to watch. So Internet Explorer and Edge. So you know that Internet Explorer is losing the last of its support in July, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, hop onto the blog and go and have a look at that. I've got a blog page on that. You're going to be able to easily tell Edge to go into Internet Explorer mode. So if you've got pages or whatever it might be you're looking at that absolutely need Internet Explorer, and your IT department somehow didn't know this change was coming, you can then you can just pop it into Internet Explorer mode. Power Apps and Power Automate, Admin Center cross-tenant analytics. So it may be that you look after more than one tenant, but you need to look at the analytics for those apps. Then that feature's coming to you in June. Teams, focus or minimize shared content in Teams meetings on the mobile. So this just means that when you've got on a mobile device, you don't have a lot of space on the screen, right? And someone's sharing their content, so you can either focus on that, or you can come up, or you can hide it if you want to and minimize it. So a bit more control for attendees of mobile devices. Teams, offline access for files. This is so useful, I guess, as we're going to start traveling again. If you've looked at a file in Teams, it will automatically become available offline to you. So simply you looking at it means that you'll have access to that. And Visio, collection of shapes. So I saw this in the I'm trying to think if it was the Admin Center or I think it was the roadmap. And the Visio, collection of shapes. That's the title. And when you look at the description, there's not a lot more. So if you go to the blog and you want more information on that, I've got the one line at the moment, but I will expand on that. In fact, as more details comes out, I'll come back to that, because if you're a Visio person, collection of shapes as a title might work for you, but it doesn't tell me a lot, if I'm honest. Okay, so Outlook, meetings online by default anytime now. So if you set up a meeting in Outlook, it's going to assume it's going to be an online one, and you'll probably see Teams settings drop in today if Teams is your default. So instead of you creating a meeting and then adding those things, if you're having a meeting, it's just going to assume it's online. Teams variable playback speed for your Teams meetings recordings. So go a little bit further out, September now. And if you're just catching up with a meeting, there you go. You can tweak the speed. If you are coming to one of my sessions and you think I speak too quickly, you might want to just slow it down a little bit. Microsoft Search. Okay, this looks awesome. So find a meeting recording based on what was said during the meeting. Okay, so behind the scenes, you're going to get it's obviously going to do its AI thing behind the scenes, and then you can search for terms that were said inside those meetings. Word, PowerPoint, and Excel quickly bring up a person's contact. So if you're co-authoring a document and you're working on a document, and then someone called Bob pops up in there and you're not really sure who Bob is, whether they should be looking at your document or not and working on it, then you can, right from inside there, you can look at the card and you can see who they are. All right, folks, nice to have a bit more content to talk to you about this month. As always, if you don't like the platform that you're watching or listening to this on, you can get this information in Facebook, get your daily updates on Twitter, obviously you can see we've got YouTube as well. And if you're on YouTube, folks, give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. It makes such a difference to me being able to get more people to watch these videos. Professionally, you can hook up on LinkedIn. If you like the podcast suggestion, then open your podcast player, do a search for Super Simple 365 and get the podcast version. Or you can just do a search for Super Simple 365 and you'll see the websites. And also, if you go to the website, you can sign up for the email version of this, where I will send you the email version of this update into your inbox every week. Maybe do it at work, and so when you're at work, then you can just read through it. You can use the links, get a cup of coffee, read it up over your lunchtime, share it with your colleagues. So look out for that as well, folks. All right, guys. So bank holiday weekend in the UK. I'm about to go outside and enjoy it with my family. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.